I'm a certified resume strategist. I'm going to show you how to write an impressive bullet point in your resume that's going to wow hiring managers and help you get a job. Okay, so we have the resume started. Now let's dive into the bullet points. So first thing we want to do is start with an action verb to capture the reader's attention. Then we're going to add some specific detail so this feels like a story that we're telling about our unique experience. Generic bullet points are the enemy. Finally, we're going to round out the bullet point with some nice results to show that we are good at the thing that we're talking about here. That is how hiring managers make their decision. Now that is a nice bullet point. For hundreds more amazing bullet point examples that you can use in your resume, check out my highest selling ebook, 540 Badass Bullet Points for Your Resume. It's in my bio. Employers are scouring your LinkedIn profile to decide if they should interview you. And one huge factor they're using to evaluate you has nothing to do with your work history. So the thing that kind of pushes people over the top to get more interviews, even if they're a little less qualified, is the things they're posting on their LinkedIn profile. Hiring managers love people who are posting on LinkedIn because it shows a genuine interest in the industry. It makes it very clear that you're willing and able to keep up on industry trends. And it's a great way to build relationships in your industry. So to get more interviews, even if you're not incredibly qualified, here's what you should do. Just Google your niche, your industry, find an interesting article, and share it on LinkedIn along with your thoughts. Repeat that once a week, you'll be golden. When you're negotiating your salary after receiving a job offer, there are 3 numbers you need to know to maximize your earning potential. And these are going to impact your salary, your lifestyle, and your entire career because any raise you get after this is going to compound off of what you negotiate in this first initial negotiation. Number 1 is, what's the minimum amount I could accept in this job? So after I pay my bills, put away my savings, have a little extra for me, what do I need to be able to do that? So let's say it's $80K a year. Number 2, what is the most that people typically get paid for a job like this? You can usually find this number by looking up this job online. So let's say maybe it's $120K a year. Number 3, what's the maximum amount I could imagine getting paid for this job? Now, we're not going to go crazy here, but usually we'll add like 10 to 25K to the initial number. So for this example, let's say that's 145K. Now, what we're going to do is take that bottom number, we're going to hide it. We're going to put it somewhere no one's ever going to see it. But we do need to know that number. Then when we're sharing our range with the employer, we're going to list that second number as our bottom, that third number as our top. Now, they might not be able to reach the top number. They might not even be able to offer you that second number. However, if they see number 2 as your lowest, they're going to try to get as close to that number as possible for you. So even though we might fall just below number 2, we're going to be way above that minimum that we kept secret in our head. And even more likely, you might get something between those 2 numbers you gave them. As an additional bonus, if they can't meet the minimum salary we asked for, they are more likely to be open to negotiating other things like vacation days, benefits, etc. If you are ever freaking out during a job interview, do these 4 things. First, say, "Excuse me, my throat is a little dry." Then, take a sip of water. Step 3, take a deep breath. And step 4, remember, if they invited you in for an interview, they already think you're impressive. You've got this. Now, if you really want to feel prepared for your interviews, check out my free ebook, How to Prepare for Job Interviews. The link is in my bio. No hiring manager has ever said this: "I love how short these resume bullet points are. Oh wow, they manage projects and project budgets. Well, I'm super impressed because I can only imagine how big and successful those projects were." No. If your bullet points are dry and short like these, anything under 10 words, you're probably not going to get called back. So how do we fix this? We need an impressive, badass bullet point, and every badass bullet point has 3 things. It'll have action verbs like these. It'll be full of specific and quantifiable detail, and it will have results. Here is an example of an amazing bullet point that checks all those boxes. For hundreds of more badass bullet points that you can use in your resume, check out my ebook, 540 Badass Bullet Points for Your Resume. The link's in my... Let's turn this 1 out of 10 resume into a 10 out of 10 resume. First, employers do not care what you want, so an objective statement, absolutely useless, bye-bye. We're going to replace that with a nice professional summary. Here is a formula you can use word for yours. Next, we need some key skills or the ATS scanner is going to throw us right in the trash. Boom, there we go, beautiful. Next, the education is ancient, so we're going to get rid of the year. Education, also not that important, so we're going to move it to the bottom. Speaking of old, this experience is from over 20 years ago, so bye-bye. Now, bullet points are a huge problem, so we're going to upgrade those. Much better. Look at all these action verbs, numbers, and results. Then we'll just jazz up the formatting, and wow, much better. Resume resources available. If your mind goes blank every time you sit down to write or update your resume, here is a really useful hack that's going to make it a whole lot easier. I've written hundreds of resumes myself. This is the formula I use to make it super easy for me. First, it really helps to start with a pre-made template. I have a few available in my website, which you can find in my bio. Once you have your template open, obviously you plug in your name, your contact information. Then we're just going to add the job title and company names. We're not going to worry about writing those bullet points yet. Then we're going to make a note of what we want to write in each bullet point. Again, we're not going to write yet. Then the best part, we're going to take a break and let our mind do some thinking. You'll be surprised how easy it is to write after you've taken a break when you already have that list. Then we come back and we write our bullet points. Then we finish off with our branding things like our areas of expertise, career highlights. Like this video and follow me for more job search tips, and check out my free and premium resume templates linked in the bio. I've got a new professional summary that you can put at the top of your resume. This one's been working really well. High-performing blank with blank years of professional experience, contributing to organizational success through high-level strategy and the implementation of operational excellence. Strong track record of inspiring effective cross-functional collaboration and innovative problem-solving in high-stakes settings. Confident in ability to generate buy-in for impactful change, using both data and relationship capital. Committed to continuous improvement and lifelong learning. For more resume content you can use word for word, check out the link in my 3 emails to never send when you apply to a job. This one is called the robot email, no personality, no interview, sorry. This one is called the me. If you make it all about you and not about them, they are not going to be interested. This is the far too common cover letter copy-paste. Now, I know we've said a lot of nice things about ourselves in the cover letter, but this is not the place to repeat those things. At least not word for word. So, instead, we're going to try something that looks like this. This one is the perfect balance of restating our case and interest in the job, and also keeping it brief. For a script to write that email, along with a few others, check out my free ebook, 9 must-have email templates for your job search, linked in my bio. And remember, you deserve a job you love. If you've applied to a job and you haven't heard back, say this to the company to check in without sounding annoying. I recently applied to blank position in your department. I wanted to reach out personally and let you know how excited I am by this opportunity. I submitted my application back on date, and I haven't been contacted about next steps. I understand you're very busy and you may still be in the selection process, but I also know that the applicant pool for